You know we gotta talk about it. You already know. The possible, should we say, overreaction of what we saw from Arch Manning, or is it just the reaction of what we saw from Arch Manning? If you watched the game today, or if you didn't, let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't very good. It was, as you say, a dud from what we were told Arch Manning was supposed to be today. Now, he may end up being exactly what you said he is, but he was not today. If we watch what he did today, he was all over the board. He was inaccurate with the football. Balls were in the dirt. Balls were sailing over the head, behind receivers. You know, he didn't look comfortable at all. I don't want to say if he was seeing it or not seeing it, but let's just say he didn't look comfortable. Let's just say he wasn't the quote unquote Heisman favorite that you told us he was going to be. Now, what we're going to hear moving forward is going to say, oh, well, he played the Ohio State University, although Texas was the number one ranked team in the country at the time. Neither here nor there. They're going to say Ohio State's team has 5 or 6 pros on defense. Those things are also true. Those are also things that we knew before we went into the game. But you're going to start to hear these things to make excuses for why Arch did not play well. And some are excuses, some are reasons. They all can be facts. They all can be facts. Those are the facts of the case. Ohio State does have a good defense. They do have pros on the defense. It was Arch's first start. It was the first game of the year, and these type of things happen in first games of the year. You know, these type of things can happen when you haven't had a lot of time. Which is not a true freshman. He's been in the program for 3 years, but these things can also happen when you overhype a player. Again, I'm not saying that Arch isn't going to be what you told me he was going to be, but I am going to say that all these facts that you're telling me now, you knew when this game came up. Like you knew all these things about Ohio State when the game was scheduled, and you still told me that Arch was the best player in the world. You still told me he was the Heisman Trophy favorite. You still told me that Texas is a national championship favorite. Like, and all these things are still out there for him. But as of today, what you told me he was is false advertising. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. And I am not here to jump on the Arch isn't good parade. I'm just here to spit the facts. That's all I'm here to tell you. And again, everything that you told me on why his debut wasn't very good and why he still may be the guy that you say he's going to be, all that is true. All that can still be true. That can very well still happen. But ladies and gentlemen, I am here to keep the same energy for everybody. That's what I'm here to do. I don't change it for anybody. I don't change it for anybody because that's your last name. That's not what I do. We had nothing to go off of besides his 5-star rating in high school and his last name. That was it. Nothing else told us he was going to be what you said he was going to be. Today. Again, this was today. You told me he was going to be this today. That's what you told me. Not just in the future, today. Okay? None of those things told me that he was going to be. We had nothing to go off of. Nothing whatsoever. The kid he played against, Julian Sand, was the next year, was a year behind him. He was a 5-star quarterback too. He's number one guy too. But we didn't hear any of that when it came to Julian Sand. Nothing. Nothing at all when it came to him. We knew he was playing for defending national champion at home. Again, and we know going into the shoe is a very difficult thing to do. Very difficult. But you knew that when you told me he was going to be the Heisman Trophy winner. All these facts, all these things you knew already. So I really don't want to hear it now that you're telling me, oh, well, Ohio State's tough. Ohio State had a good defense. Going into the horseshoe's tough. We are aware of those facts, and we were aware of those facts before you told me everything you told me. So right now, we can say what it is. Right now, Arch Manning is not what you say he is. He is extremely inaccurate right now. And I don't know if that gets fixed. I don't know if it was a first game jitters. We'll find out. But as of today, he was extremely inaccurate. He was uncomfortable. And this begs the question of what we kept asking ourselves. Listen, if you know anything about high school recruiting, you know Quinn Ewers was also the top quarterback in his class. And you kept saying to myself, why aren't they playing Arch Manning? Well, maybe because he wasn't ready. Maybe because there wasn't the gap. Maybe if they were close or the gap wasn't big enough. Maybe they said, you know what, Quinn Ewers may actually give us a better chance to win right now than Arch Manning does. Don't forget, Arch came in as a third-string quarterback his freshman year. He wasn't a second string. He was a third-string guy. The second string guy, when Quinn got hurt, he didn't play. Their second string guy, but I'm sorry, I forget his name. He ended up transferring to Duke because he knew what time it was. Then Arch took over as a second string guy. They didn't start Arch over Quinn Ewers, even though how frustrated Texas Longhorns were with Quinn Ewers. Sark never went to him, and we wonder why. Again, a small sample size is what we have to go off of, but today, the inaccuracies. He threw one touchdown. There were some drops there, too. I'll give you that. There were some drops. He threw one pick. He should have had another pick that was dropped. And let me tell you something. If Sark would have really took the training wheels off of him and let him just throw it all over the yard, there would have been more than 2 picks. There would have been more than that. So Sark knew what was going on when it came to that. Well, we can sit back and we can say, hey, you know what? Let's give him a little bit of time. It was his first game as a quote-unquote starter of actually leading the program. It was against the defending national championships in their house. Again, we knew all this information already. So we can give you some grace for that. We can do that. And we can look at all the pros on there. But don't forget what you told me. Because you told me that with knowing all that we knew, Arch was still going to go off. You told me that Texas had the better roster. You had a guy from ESPN, and I don't know if they're just, they pay him handsomely, I'm assuming. But you had this guy come on TV that gets paid handsomely and tell me that Arch Manning's the best quarterback in the SEC since Tim Tebow. And maybe he is. I don't know. He wasn't today, but maybe he is. And we just glossed over Cam Newton. But yeah, whatever. Neither here nor there. We'll get back to that conversation later. But that's what you told me. So now you want to come at me and you want to say, oh, even though I knew all these things, you want to give me these excuses for why this was okay today. And you know what? 2 things can be true. It's his first start as really a true starter, and these things happen. That is true. It is also true that Ohio State's defense is very good and they were on a roll. That is true. What is also true is that you knew all this information when you told me he was going to be great. And this is one thing I want to get at too, ladies and gentlemen, before I get off my soapbox here of Arch Manning. And again, I'm not saying he won't be great. He possibly can be. You know what? It's one game. He's got a lot of games ahead of him. But we're talking about today and right now. That's what I'm talking about. Today, right now. That's it. But one thing I want to say is this. As we have all the excuse makers right now about how good Ohio State is and how great the defense is and how many NFL players they have, but yet Texas has the better roster. Yet Texas has the better roster, but we're going to talk about all the guys that Ohio State has. Isn't this when you play the good teams, isn't this when the great ones show up? Isn't this when the great ones show up and show out? Like, you're supposed to do it against the good teams. You're supposed to be great against the good teams. You're not supposed to be sorry against the good teams and good against the bad teams. That's not what makes you great. What makes you great is when you show out against the good teams. When you show out when all the chips are at the table. When you show out when it's prime time. When you show out when they all came to see you. When they paid the ticket price, the price of admission, they came to the show to see you. That's when you're supposed to show out. What has happened to sport that we want to give everybody an excuse that they don't play well when they play against great competition? Of course you're going to play well against Louisiana Monroe. I don't give a damn about them. What happens when you have to play against the Ohio States and the Michigans and the Bamas and the LSUs? Who are you then? That's when we find out who you are. We don't find out who you are against Long Island. We don't find out who you are against them. That's what sport is. Where have we gotten in sport that we're like, oh, because the team is good, because the competition is too good, that it's okay for him to stink up the joint? When does that become okay? No, that's when you rise to the occasion. That's when you tell me how good you are. And I'm going to give you one quick example. Some of you guys don't remember this because you're too young. But when the real players show up, sometimes we don't expect them. Do y'all remember when Terrell Pryor showed up at USC for Ohio State? And this was as a true freshman. This was not as a guy who's been in the program for 3 years. My man showed up and showed out. And everybody on that in the stadium, outside the stadium, watching it said, oh, Ohio State got them one. Oh, they got one, ladies and gentlemen. And that was as a true freshman. So sometimes it doesn't take long to figure out who's who. Sometimes we find Waldo real quick. Sometimes we do. And again, I am not putting a fork. The tombstone is not in the grave right now for Arch's career. I am not saying that. He can very well be, again, what everybody told me he was going to be. But as of today, I am not making any excuses for him. Because had he played well, Ohio State would have still had all those NFL guys on there, and you would have promoted him for doing that against them. You would have said he did this against one of the best defenses in college football. So I'm not going to go ahead and give him an excuse because he got them same players that you thought he was going to show out on. He didn't play well. He didn't look good. Should he get better from here? Yes. Do I believe he will? Yes. Do I believe he's going to be what you say he is? To be determined. I don't know. I have no idea. From what I saw today, I'm leaning the other way, but I don't know. TBD, as they say. But again, I need that same energy all the way around. Don't start switching it up now because your boy didn't show out the way that you all told me he was going to. It's okay. It happens. But now we can go ahead and temper expectations. And now he can actually go ahead and develop, and we can see what he really is. Not just because his name is Arch Manning. Now we can see what he really is. Is he really that guy, or is he just a guy? We about to find out. But it's game one. It's in the books. It is what it is. We have the data, and we'll move forward. But that's what it is on Arch today. I'm not saying it's going to be what Arch is on week 11, week 12. I'm not saying that, but that's what it is on Arch today. All right? Don't shoot the messenger. You heard it here first. We out of here. Still broke. Peace.